Today and every day, and for a long, long time, many, many years, I have been using what we can call today helpful habits to stay connected to my soul. As you probably know, when you're out in the world, everything wants you to connect with something outside of yourself. The pull is very strong. I think it's so much stronger than when I started on my spiritual journey. So we really need to have something, a habit, a pattern, something that inspires us to come back home, dip in, reconnect, soak in, so that the soaking can really walk us in the world, can be present in and as us in the world. And my specific collection of habits or quotes, they're basically quotes, and many of them are Bible quotes. And I always want to just share that I did not grow up with any kind of religion. I'm not a Christian. It has always been an inner unfolding for me. Didn't go to church, none of that. That was just not part of my upbringing or my family. But when I had my big awakening, when was that? Somewhere in the 80s, I think. I can't even remember. No, in the 90s, sorry. It's about 40 years ago, I think. It was because I was reading a book by a spiritual teacher called Joel Goldsmith, and everything opened up. And it changed my life, of course, but it didn't stay there. It stayed for a few months, which was amazing, but it didn't stay because something happened in my life that completely pulled me out of the experience that I had. And since then, it's been, I want to stay connected to it. And because of Joel, he was a Christian mystic. He was very strongly overshadowed by the Christ consciousness, by the Christ energy, whatever that means to you. And that's why in his writings and in his talks, all his talks are on YouTube these days, he would always use these quotes from the Bible. And some of them, really resonated with me because I needed to be reminded of something that the Pernilla, the separate sense of self, had no clue about. She just knew she was out there on her own trying to survive, like most of us, in whatever way we do that. The first one that I used was basically in one of his books. The first book I read, he would say, now go inside and just say, I and my Father are one. It didn't mean much to me, but I followed. So I went inside, and not too long after, that's when everything opened up in me. And of course, it changed my life. First up into heaven for a few months, and then I went down to the deepest hell for a number of months too. And that's not what I'm going to talk about today. I want to talk about these quotes. If you have a teaching, a teacher, an inspiration, anything that you can really feel the impact when you say it to yourself, when you repeat it, you take it inside as an object for meditation, maybe. It's like you drop in a little pebble. And then you allow the ripple effect to just do what it knows how to do. Because as long as it's a statement, it's just a statement in the mind. And it's great to have that. It's a reminder. You can come back to it, and it may give you some peace and some security or some confirmation or conviction of something that you need to hear. And of course, the part of us that needs to hear that is the one that is separate from that the realization of that statement, that's the one that needs to hear it. So for me, it's been like, feeding that, so it could grow and take it in. And this is the most important part of it. It's not just an affirmation that you just say over and over, and it's almost like you're hypnotizing yourself to believing it. It's all mental still. It's all happening in the mind. And it's probably good if you're at that level. But when you start wanting more of it to go inside and start experiencing the truth of that, then you just have it as it's like a reminder that you just let yourself receive. I used to have Post-it stickers all over my house when I started this journey, and it was helpful because if I was not focusing on it, I would totally focus on the world, and gone I was from myself. So one of the ones that I've been using for many years, because I've been such a doer, can you relate, is I go before you to make the crooked places straight. And I go before you to prepare a place for you. Those helped the part of me out here that was trying to survive and thinking she was the one who had to do it all on her own. It was very, very helpful. And it still is. It's not my main one, but I like to remind herself of that. Because when I do, that part of me comes into the actual experience of that. Because I remind myself and I want to know, I want to know the truth of that, not just as a Band-Aid or something, because then it's still not embodied. So when I let myself receive that, it's really receiving the words from within. It has to go from here down here so you can feel it. And for instance, if I say, I go before you to make the crooked places straight. And when I really take it in, then there's a relief, like, oh, that's right. Oh, that feels so good. And then the separate sense of self lets go, basically. So that false identity that doesn't even exist except in our own minds, that lets go. It's almost like I've talked about the frozen wave metaphor in the past, if you have heard that. It's almost like that frozen wave or that frozen ice cube. It starts melting into the ocean, right? It's still the same. It's not like it's separate from the ocean of love or from the ocean of relaxation. But when that part hears that, then it can go, oh, yeah. And there's always that deep breath. That's usually, for me at least, that's a sign that it's taken in. It's almost like the divine speaks to me through a deep breath, through a relaxation, through a warm feeling, a joy, a trust. If you have your own, I would really invite you to use them, not just once in a blue moon, but maybe many times a day, because it's like nourishment. And the nourishment is coming from your soul when you receive your soul. You see that you take in a statement, and that the truth of that statement is that it resonates with something inside of you that meets it. And then it's like an energy that is being set free to go before me to make the crooked places straight in my life. Now, there was a time where I thought the crooked places were outside of me. And of course, since then, I realized that the crooked places are in my mind that manifest on the outside as crooked or as missing or lacking or unhappy, whatever it is. And I want to also just share one more thing about that. That was also a big shift for me. When I heard, I go before you to make the crooked places straight, I thought it was I, God. It's like there's a God out there, and I'm going to go before you, and I'm going to make your crooked places straight. And so I had to surrender to an outside God. And even though it worked partly for me, it didn't work all the way down because there was a part of me that did not trust an outside God. If it's outside of me, I don't know what it is. You may have read about it. If you read the Bible, there might be a deep trust in that, which is beautiful. But for me, I had to realize that I that goes before me to make the crooked places straight is the I that I am. I always say, not the Pernilla, not I am Pernilla. She would have no clue. All she knows is just working hard and trying to figure it out. She's the one who needs to drop in here into her own I am, the I that I am already, the same I that you are already. So when that starts coming alive in us, then I realized, oh, I go before you, not Pernilla trying to make it happen. So I can rest back into that I, that sense, that feeling, that experience of I or I am. And that's something that we definitely all need to spend more time with. And then it's like so wholesome. Then you realize that the I that I am, the I that you are, is so loving and so fulfilling and so giving, and that it is you, and that you, I, Pernilla, is the one who has been cutting ourselves off from I am the divine, from that frequency or energy or consciousness that I am. And as long as I'm living out here, not connected to this flow, this foundation, this infinite everything, it's not happening. So by using those statements, it helps the outer separate identity to relax more and more. And the more I relax, the closer I come to I. And then suddenly it can just switch and it's like, oh, I am. And then that's the beauty, that then there is no doubting. The doubting would be that you would cut yourself off again. But you can certainly choose not to do that the more you rest in this. So see if there's any quote, any paragraph, anything that somebody has said that really resonated with you, that you could just feel like, oh yeah, because it's that oh yeah, it's that feeling of relaxation. That is it. The quote is to help you drop into that. So see if there is anything. And the beauty of it is that you want to make it your own. You want to make it your own because it is your own. There's just been teachers out there who have been pointing to that. I'm sure you've heard that the teachers are just pointing the finger, right, towards something. And it's up to you to find out what it's pointing to. And it is actually always the I inside, because that's all there is. So I hope that is helpful, that you might just think about a quote, a comment, or an experience where you had that, so you can take it in again and really make it your own on a continuous basis. And that takes a little time. I'm not there yet, but I am making this a daily reminder in whatever way or whatever quotes that I am connected with today. All right, my friends, have a wonderful day in a sweet effortless flow in your own true self.